Welcome to the Conquer Your Battlefield podcast, where we come together to discuss some of the more significant struggles and metaphorical battlefields that we've faced along our journeys and share some insight on how we've conquered them. I'm JD McGibney, and today I'll be chatting with a man of many talents. He wears many metaphorical hats, not literal ones, because his hair is too awesome to cover up. He's an actor, writer, producer, comedian, psychology professor, and even a magician. He's one of the members of the award-winning creative group Great Hair Productions and is an overall great human being. Today, I'll be talking with Mr. Jeffrey Thompson. How you doing today, Jeff?
It's been so long since somebody has said Mr. in front of my name, that I was like, oh, wow, I sound like a cool school teacher. Um,
You do.
guys, don't call me Mr. Thompson. Call me Mr. Jeffrey Thompson. Still slightly formal, but a little more familiar.
I call you Mr. Jeff.
Yeah, I mean, oh, wow. I don't know if I like that.
Do you have a middle name? Can I call you by your Mr. Middle name? Does that work?
It's not a great one. So let's just stick with, um, you know what? I think I've transcended names. Just refer to me as him, and then people
Him.
will know.
Uh,
He,
like the bad guy from Powerpuff Girls.
Powerpuff Girls, yeah.
Mr.
Who,
Him. Gotcha.
weirdly enough, I think was the devil. So probably not the best person to compare myself to, or maybe the best person, you know?
Depending on which side of the story we're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, today we're going to be talking about face blindness, or what is clinically called prosopagnosia. Simply put,
Mm-hmm.
prosopagnosia is a neurological disorder that leaves the brain unable to recognize faces or facial expressions. It can be caused from damage to the brain or be present from birth. According to a Harvard University study led by Ken Nakayama and Richard Russell, roughly about 2% of people in the UK show signs of having face blindness. While there is currently no cure, there is a myriad of ways that people can adapt in order to recognize individuals and pick up on emotional cues. Jeff, we've known each other mainly digitally for about 2 years at this point. And from what I
Mm-hmm.
know of you personally, you happen to be one of the most expressive and emotionally fluent people that I've met in recent years. So I was pretty surprised to hear that you had face blindness. And as I recall, you were also surprised because this was a recent diagnosis for you.
Mm-hmm.
What was that like when you came to that realization and figured out what was going on?
So the one fun thing about a lot of like psychological disorders is that most people live with them for a long time before they realize that something is wrong. And so forever I just kind of assumed that everybody had like the same experience with faces that I do. I remember several times during like my childhood, like I would like notice something about like my grandfather's face, and then suddenly my entire understanding of what his face looked like changed. Like it was just like a new face. And I was just like, oh yeah, everybody like notices somebody's nose, and then like they like see that person's face in like a different way. And also
Interesting.
like I figured that like, oh, everybody has issues like recognizing people like in a public place. That makes sense. It's like you weren't expecting that person, so obviously you're going to have like a hard time until you can figure out who that person is. And even like things like certain like TV shows where I would like get lost and I wouldn't realize why I was getting lost or why I was confused. And then recently, once I was talking to my girlfriend about like some of these issues because we were talking about like weird things that we experience, and like this was still like very much the honeymoon phase, which at 2 years was still in the honeymoon phase.
Aw,
But like we were still getting to know each other. I was like, oh, like that thing. And I was talking about these experiences, and then she was like, no, that's like not a thing that like I nor many people that I know have ever experienced. And I had studied face blindness. I was aware of what prosopagnosia was, but I'd never thought that I had it because most of the clinical cases that are talked about are very severe cases where somebody, like the classic cases, the man who mistook his wife for a hat, where you are completely unable to distinguish between faces and objects.
Oh, wow.
I have a moderate but comparatively mild case where like I just have a much harder time than most people like
Well, I
figuring
remember
out. Yeah.
you and I, you, me, and our friend Elaine met up for coffee like a few weeks ago, a few months ago at this point.
Hmm.
And, you basically let us know, like, when we were talking that, like, this was a new thing for you. And you had mentioned that, like, you were able to pick me out because you knew I had a beard, I had long
Hmm.
hair, and that I had tattoos on my arms. And then you had said
Hmm.
that if I had changed one of those things, like if I had shaved, it would have thrown you off.
Yeah. It so one thing that I've like so the fun thing about like studying psychology and like dealing with something like this is that I'm like very analytical about like everything that's happening. So like I've realized that my brain has like shortcuts to recognizing people. And one of the shortcuts that my brain uses is like hairstyles. So if somebody like even sometimes somebody just like putting their hair up makes it very hard for me to recognize them. And the only reason why I would recognize them is because like they're sitting in the same place that they normally sit. So knowing that I was going to run into you made it much easier when I got to the place to like try to find you. It also helped that you were like sitting closest to like the area that I was coming from. So you were one of the first people who I saw.
Plus the
But
fact
yeah,
that I am a
like it,
metalhead that always wears all black in a sea of
yes,
people
it
wearing
like
pastel colors in Los Angeles.
yeah, if you were like wearing like a like very autumnal like turtleneck and like scarf, I would have like completely passed by you. So you know, people who have like a kind of like brand are much easier to recognize. Also like people who I see in like the same place or the same like types of places. So whenever I'm like running into somebody at like different comedy theaters, it's easier because I expect to see that person at a comedy theater. So then I have like fewer people to that like I can like narrow it down. You know
Are
what I
you
mean?
able to identify voices easily?
Yeah, voices help a lot. So like the, you know, sometimes what will happen is somebody will start talking to me, and then based off of like how they are talking, I'm able to go, oh, this is who this person is, you know.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Now, I think it's, I want to go back to like the point that you brought up that like a lot of people who have like psychological like disorders don't really know that they have something or that they're dealing with something for
Mhm.
most of their life until like something like really points it out or they're having a discussion with someone. They're like, oh, wait a
Mhm.
second. And like they kind of get thinking about, how they've been living their lives and like the things that they've done, like habits that they have. So and the fact that you've studied psychology, that you are a psychology professor, I think it's also really fascinating that you took this long to put like two and two together because you're an adult with a career.
Mhm.
And you know, I have zero experience with this, but like it seems like a pretty uh like a pretty drastic thing to come to like a conclusion so late. I kind of figured that just from lack of knowledge and experience that this would have been something that would have popped up in like your adolescent years or like maybe like college or like just after college.
Yeah, I mean, I always like it was just always an issue that I just didn't realize, and I probably just like had so many other things that I was worried about. that like because it's not like a thing like depression or anxiety, which I also suffer from time to time, which like really feel like all encompassing. They're like really like big feelings because they're related to emotions. Uh, Not being able to recognize somebody just seems like a silly mistake. And you
Especially
wouldn't
since you're able
think,
to like adapt and you're able to recognize people through other things, and this doesn't seem
yes.
to affect your ability to like process information or make decisions.
Yeah. So yeah, and that's the thing where because the coping that like I developed over time like became so robust, like I would have never thought until I started getting into like the intricacies of like some of the things that I experience, that like it was an issue. And then once I like really started like looking at like my history around like faces and like I have certain friends who used to get frustrated because I would like reintroduce myself to them multiple times, or the occasional like meet someone at a party and then see them later and reintroduce myself to them, or start talking to somebody that I think that I know, and then I realize that I don't, which like some people have that experience of like somebody's waving to them and then like they wave to them, but the and that's one of the fun things about like um like disorders in general, where you have like quote unquote normal functioning, and then you have like abnormal functioning, which is, anything outside of that social norm.
Mhm.
But like everybody tends to have some degree of abnormal functioning. Like people feel sad, people can feel nervous, but like not everybody reaches the level of like diagnosable depression or diagnosable anxiety. So until you realize how different you are from other people, you don't realize how severe it is. Because also, like, it doesn't really come up in conversation often. Like, oh,
Yeah,
like, what? How do you perceive faces? Because like it's just a thing that everyone assumes
that is a
everyone
really good
does.
point.
Yeah. Never
Um,
once, aside from that one time. Yeah.
when I was doing some research before, before this conversation, it also said that like one of the issues that people with prosopagnosia have is a difficulty in recognizing emotions because of their inability to like process a face. Is that
Mhm.
something that you also have struggled with?
Um, so it's funny because like when you said that originally, I was like, oh, like I I didn't I've never heard of that as like I've probably like read it a bunch of times and like never just focused on that. But like that is sometimes the thing that I do like struggle with, but I've always assumed that it was just because like I have social anxiety, so I'm always trying to like figure out what people are like feeling.
Or it could
Um,
be the social anxiety stems from you having difficulty processing those emotions and not knowing how to
right.
react.
And that's another just fun thing about like psychology, where like you
Chicken and the
see
egg.
how yeah, like it's these very complex like systems that like feed into each other and like build, right? If it were, if and also, my inability to recognize people like makes me feel like, oh God, this person must be upset with me. And sometimes they very much are. So then it's like, oh, what do people think? And blah 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 blah. So it's always been or rather, I guess, back to you saying chicken or the egg, I'm not sure where that stems from, but it is sometimes like a thing where I'm just like, I don't know the context of this, and just don't. Is this person upset? Whatever.
Yeah, I think it's really fascinating just because from what I know of you and how like I've interacted with you, you're very expressive. And
Mhm.
just seeing a bunch of the stuff that you've worked on just with the great hair productions and the fact that you're a very funny guy. Like you have
Thank you.
this really good understanding of emotions and like just the fact that you yourself are so expressive, not only in how you interact with people, but like even your facial expressions. They're very a lot of them are very subtle, but they're also very deliberate. So I think that's a very interesting, maybe ironic thing, the fact that you are so good at doing these things and expressing yourself, but like it is an issue for you in like processing other, other people.
Yeah, and I think that like sometimes that happens where like the thing that you struggle with is something that you tend to like overcompensate with like the thing that you sometimes want from other people is a thing that you overcompensate with when dealing with other people. So like if you are depressed and you like feel isolated, you might be more likely to check in on others more often than other people check in with you. It's that like weird thing where, I sometimes wish that there was like more clarity in people's expression. I tend to like I get really frustrated sometimes with like I don't understand like what exactly like you seem upset, but like you're saying things that like aren't upset. Like what is that? And I also think that's probably just like living in LA where people don't say what they mean.
Yeah.
But like I really like value directness because it's just like no, no, you just know. No, you just know what I mean. Like I'm happy right now. No, I'm mad. Right? Look at my face. Blah. Yeah. Oh, hey.
Yeah, no, there's definitely a higher level of diplomacy out here in Los Angeles.
That's the very nice way of saying it.
Yeah, people seem to be very, what's the word? Indirect with turning
Mhm.
people down or being negative.
Mhm.
Because I feel like a
Oh
lot of
my
people
God,
are just,
yes, JD, I'd love to hang out. That'd be so fun. Yes, we
I'm
have to
just
do it. We
totally booked for the
absolutely have
next
to do it.
6 years.
I'm just so, but like literally, be on me. I'm going to ask like Tuesday, the first Tuesday in 2028, literally hit me up. We're gonna grab coffee. It's gonna be so great. I've just blocked you on social media.
That is very LA.
So fun. Hey,
Oh
but
dear
that
God.
person, is cool. So 10,000 followers on social media. So they're too busy
A
for
week.
friendship. Yeah. Wow. A week.
So you were saying that it's not uncommon for people who deal with something specific like psychologically to go out of their way to provide to others that which they feel that they are lacking.
Hmm.
How do you feel that that somehow guided you towards being in entertainment, specifically into comedy?
Um, no.
Hmm.
Man, I wish it did. That would be a great story. But no, I think it was just always fun for me. I really enjoyed it, and I think being just the kid who I was, who like really wanted to like if I liked something, I wanted to be the best at it. So I just like worked hard, and now I'm at least top 20% in the world at the things that I do. This also includes people who have never tried to do the thing that I do. But top 20% in the world is pretty good.
I mean, and you are an accountant, so we have to trust you on the numbers.
Yeah, you got to trust me on the numbers.
You have the
Um,
button down shirt and the glasses to prove it.
yeah, my green visor, it's somewhere around here. It's in a drawer.
Oh my God,
Um,
you need a green visor like at all times.
yeah,
Just pull it out for
and
these
I
moments.
do own a financial calculator. So if you ever need me to, PRT, I could do that for you.
Gotcha.
Yeah. That's for the interest heads out there like, oh yeah, PRT. Heck yeah.
We'll give them a high five.
Yeah, there you go. Bam.
Um, So you're saying that, you getting into entertainment was just like something you were really passionate about and you
Yeah.
just jumped into. So that's fantastic.
Hmm.
Um, being how has face blindness affected you in that industry in the workplace while being in entertainment?
Um, so it is pretty fortunate that the way the entertainment world works, like, is like it actually has like sheltered me a lot from this
Hmm.
because you tend to work with like a lot of the same people in the same places. And also you're dealing with like a lot of people who tend to be kind of like unique. Because like, especially like comedians and like improvisers, like funky, distinct looks and like personalities and like quirky voices are like the norm. So in general, like I tend to see a lot of like unique people who I can like glom onto like something about them, which makes it very easy for me to like not fall into like certain traps. But there have been like a number of times when I have like confused people because their hairstyle is similar to like another performer's or this happens more so with my female friends and my male friends, but like a sudden drastic haircut change where I'm like sitting next to somebody that I know and I have no idea who they are. And then actually recently, like in the past like 3 or 4 years, I like noticed that like, oh, when somebody changes their hair, like I just like uh I just have no idea who they are. And I would start to say like, oh, I was like sometimes I don't recognize people when they change their hair. Like I'm just bad at faces. Which again, why didn't I figure out that I had face blindness? I was just like, oh, I'm just, regular bad with faces as some people are. But like the fact that there was some what's the word I'm looking for? There's like kind of a pattern to when I would see people. So like if I'm going to a theater on a certain night, I know which teams are performing, so I know who to expect.
So like say if
Which
someone like has like red hair and like it
mhm,
used to be long and then like they suddenly cut it. If you were to see them, that same person with red hair at the same
mhm.
time and place you would normally see them, but their hair was shorter, you would be able to deduce, oh, this is, Stephanie.
I might not. So it could take me a while because the like it I've noticed that like my brain depends like on like basically a person's like silhouette, and your hair
Oh.
like is a big determinant of that. So if like their general like outline changes, which would I might have a much harder time. But then so the thing that I've realized, and this is also probably why I'm so like friendly in general, is like people will like start talking to me and be like, hey, how's it going? And I'll be like, great. What have you been up to? It's been so long. And it's like, oh, I'm still, I've still got the kids. And then my brain's like, people who I know with kids. And it's like, yeah, I'm performing tonight. I'm like, what teams are performing tonight? And then I'm like, oh, is the rest of your team? And then, oh yeah, they're over there. I'm like, so like I've been like
Gotcha.
it's always a process of elimination thing and like a context thing. But yeah, there are definitely things that really throw me off. Halloween is the absolute worst holiday in the world for
Oh, wow.
people. Yeah, because people move things and they cover things and they paint things. um yeah.
So like, are you able to like if someone says, "Hey, I'm going to dress up like Michael Myers," obviously I assume you're going to be like, "Oh, like Tim is going to be Michael Myers," so you'd be able to be like, "Oh,
Yes.
that's Tim." But I mean that totally makes sense because like Halloween, like nobody knows who anybody is. It's like
Mhm.
masks, face painting, body painting. People are upside down. People are like, you know, all over the place. So I
Haven't gone to
totally.
the parties where people are upside down. I might need to hang with you this Halloween.
All right, it's a deal. We'll make it happen.
Perfect.
We'll have an upside down Halloween party.
Woo! Head rush.
Um, I totally had a question, and then I had
Yeah,
a
I had to
brain
reel
fart.
you, buddy.
You
That's what
did.
I did. We were talking about silhouettes.
We
Yep.
were talking about silhouettes. Uh, I assume that well, with you and like the team in Great Hair Productions, you're all pretty unique looking.
Hmm.
It's made up of like, men, women, different heights, different hair colors, different
Hmm.
all shapes and sizes. Do you uh, is that done like on purpose, or is that just kind of like you just coincidentally happen to be like, oh, these people work great together and like we all just wanted to work together kind of thing?
Yeah, it was completely accidental. There were many members who came in and left over the years.
Are
But
you like the
it
founding
is,
member of Great Hair?
yes. So I started the group and or I had the idea of like such a group. And then I believe from the beginning, Joe, Tom, and Bridget, and Jason were there. And then Janine joined later, and then Elaine after that. I think I did that without forgetting anyone. I'm going to get an angry email later, not a big deal. Don't worry
Jeff, how
about
could you
it.
forget
I
me?
looked. Oh God, Kevin. Oh, Kevin, why? I'm so sorry. Uh, no, I did. I did it. I remembered everybody. Wow,
Perfect. You
never
know what?
happened before.
You get a golf clap.
Oh,
I'm very proud of you.
thank you. Yeah.
Um, Ever since you did get diagnosed with prosopagnosia,
Mhm.
have you started taking like measures to kind of like work around it, or have the things that you've set in place from like, childhood just been enough to help you like navigate life?
Yeah, because I've tried to like being mindful of it makes it like easier to like prepare for such situations. Um, the kind of nice thing is the fact that I happen to have a large afro. So like if I'm like meeting someone in like an unfamiliar place or even in a familiar place, like as opposed to like in a public place, I should say, not like going to that person's house. I can say, hey, I'll see you there. Text, I'm at the bar, and they'll find me. I'm very easy to find. So
You do
that's
have
like
very
a thing.
majestic and epic hair, by the way.
It's really because like, yeah, it helps. So like that's like a thing where most of the time I could just depend on other people finding me. When it is a like situation where I don't know who I'm going to see, it does make it a little bit harder. Like I was at a friend's wedding, and I like one person took me like 3 minutes into the conversation to realize who this person was. And also my other secret, I'm sharing all my secrets, you're getting all the dirty laundry, is if I'm in a public place with like my girlfriend or even like another friend, I can do the like, oh, you two introduce each other. It's always a little bit awkward because you're supposed to say both people's names, but I could just be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. You two haven't met. And one thing that like my girlfriend does is she knows that like I haven't done it
Yeah.
yet. So she'll be like, oh, I'm Tiffany. Thank you. Nice to meet you. And then they'll say their name. And then I'll be like, great.
You're
But
like,
yeah,
thanks for the backup.
Yes, very supportive. Two strong years, still in the honeymoon phase, still love each other so much, and probably will until the end of time. So
Fair enough. That's
yeah,
true love
shout
right
out
there.
to
Two
my
years into
girlfriend.
the honeymoon phase. I mean, you're doing
Ooh,
good, my friend.
we're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I saw like another person later who I very confidently was like, "Hey, this is this person's name," and then he was like, "Are you kidding?" And then I was like, yep, I'm doing a bit. Here, you two introduce each other. Nice to meet both of you.
Nice
Um,
cover.
it's rough. It is rough sometimes, but whatever. Who cares?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, from what I see as an unbiased bystander, you're doing really good for yourself. I mean, you're living a very full, successful life. You're very happy from what I've seen and what you share. You're in a very loving relationship. You're in a
Yeah,
career that you love. You have a bunch of really great
yeah.
friends. So,
Yeah, the like thing, I feel like there are some like and maybe other people with face blindness, especially like the more severe forms may like disagree with me. But like in my experience, there have been like other things that I dealt with that have been like far more debilitating. And even like when it is debilitating, it is like it's more so like, oh, this has created a slightly embarrassing situation. You know what I mean? It's not like like dealing with like depression where like sometimes you just like don't want to get out of bed and you feel like everybody hates you,
mm.
or like like being like if my like kneecaps were broken,
Oh,
that would really affect my day-to-day life. It would be more than just like the minor like shame of not being able to recognize somebody's face.
well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat today, Jeff. I very much appreciate you opening up and sharing what it's been like for you to deal with prosopagnosia, or what people are commonly calling face blindness.
Hey, anytime.
I truly believe that the more that we as a society feel comfortable opening up about our struggles, the more it will help others to realize that they are not alone. Everyone has the inner strength to face whatever life puts along their path. So thank you again, Jeff, for taking the time to chat. And thank you to everyone that has tuned into this episode. If anyone watching finds that they are struggling with their mental health, please do not be afraid to reach out to your friends, family, or a mental health professional. I'll place a link in the description of this video that will have some information and connection to further resources. And until next time, remember, you always have the strength to conquer your battlefield.